Hey students, good morning. Happy Friday. I wanted to make a video for our presentation this week, just in case anybody needed to revisit the assignment or 6-hour. I know we didn't get a chance to have a class on Friday. So it's going to be a little bit longer than some of the other ones just because I want to go over the assignment, but I'm going to be as quick and concise as I can. And as always, email with questions. So looking at our presentation, few quick things. We're going to start doing daily attendance from checking in on Google Meet. If you didn't get a chance to check in on Google Meet, you'll have to email me with the Google Meet check-in question. But 6-hour, don't worry about that if you didn't get a chance to get to it because we didn't have class today. New grading protocols. So Q4, in case you haven't heard yet, is going to be credit, no credit for everybody. There's no option to change that. So I'm going to keep entering grades in gradebook. 60 and above will equal credit for this class. 59 or below will equal no credit. Some things that we have to change just in light of recent decisions made. We're no longer going to be working on the website because we're changing some assignments coming up. The website is not as relevant. So we're not going to work on that anymore. Reading the book you checked out, you do not need to do that. We will not be assigning that. However, if you want to read it and write this essay I'm going to talk about the book you checked out, that's fine. You can read the book, but you do not have to read the book. The book is not going to be assigned. If you did not check out a book before we left the school building, that is fine as well. You will not be assigned to read the book you checked out. Sorry about the dogs barking in the background. There's some street cleaners and it's really rattling the neighborhood. Okay, what we're going to be doing is an IB/HL essay. This is new. We didn't talk about this yet. It's 1,200 to 1,500 words, and then college essay is what we're going to finish with. So let's talk about the IB essay. Students are going to pick a text that we've read or viewed this school year from IB Lang and Lit. There's 7 topics to choose from, which I'm going to show you, and then you pick a prescribed question, and your essay is going to answer that question. Okay? It's so important that you pick a text that you still have access to for evidence, whether it's a video that you can just watch again and again, that's great, but you need to pick a text that you have access to. Here are the different topics: identity, culture, creativity, communication, transformation, perspective, and representation. Those are the topics, okay? But what you're gonna wanna do first is pick a question. So what I started doing is writing some prescribed questions for each of the essay topics. Now you can make a totally different question. You can tweak one of my prescribed questions. I'm just trying to help us with the brainstorming process because we're not together. Identity, these are some possible questions to use for identity. These are some possible more prescribed questions for identity. Culture, possible prescribed questions. Creativity, to me, this one seems more difficult, but that's just me. Maybe you're like, no, I really want to do creativity, Ms. Koppel, and that's great. Just to me, this one feels a little more tricky with what we've read and viewed. Communication, if you liked any of the teen activism stuff, one of the speeches, one of the opinion columns, the manifesto, I think that these would be great questions to pick with one of those teen activism texts that you read or viewed. How do writers communicate and use creativity to represent the world in a variety of ways? To how do they do this for a particular perspective? I think these are great questions if you wanted to pick one of the teen activism texts. Dove commercials, this is one last option I'm going to throw in because students really like to write about the Dove commercials. So here are 5 Dove commercials that I've hyperlinked on here. You could focus on 2 or 3 of the Dove advertisements and then pick one of maybe these questions or create your own. For example, to what extent are representations in the advertisements honest forms of communication? In what ways do advertisers communicate various representations of women and why? The Dove commercials just tend to be a really popular choice, especially for women or for females in IB Lang and Lit. So anybody can pick it, but a lot of students like to do Dove commercials. They like to write about them. So I'm including them as one last option of something that we've read or viewed this year. check them out. They have this new COVID-19 one, which I think is really powerful. And these are the 5 that you would have to use. Okay, you can just pick a different Dove commercial. Perspective is another one. This one I highlighted, how and to what extent can humor be used? I think this would be a great pick if you were doing the How to Write About Africa piece, how we use humor to convey truth. That's a satire piece. That would be really powerful if you liked that How to Write About Africa text. Transformation is another topic. More prescribed questions for representation. So what I'd like to show you now is what you're going to complete before next time we see each other, the homework assignment. Okay, here are some suggestions for text that I would pick if I were you, because A, you want to have access to this text. You need a lot of evidence in this essay, so you have to be able to look up evidence. For example, Native Son is a text you read a really long time ago, right? And you might not have that book anymore. So being able to access the text and evidence would be hard. So any of the documentaries count as text. That's a text that we viewed. So you could use one of the documentaries, especially if you already want to use the same one that you started to write about. You could probably use some of that in this paper. How to Write About Africa essay. That's a great one. That's a new one that we just looked at, and it's short. Any text from the teen activism, a speech, again, an opinion column, whatever. Your Lit Circle books, if you have access to one of them, because again, you need evidence. And the Dove commercials. And again, if you want to use the book that we checked out before we left, you can. But it has to be something where you can look at it again and again and you have access to it so you can get evidence. Okay? These are just some suggestions. You're welcome to pick something else as well. So what you're doing for homework is you are going to go on to the weekly game plan and you are going to fill out this template for your paper. So this template here, you'll notice if we look at the homework HL essay template, asks you to pick what text you're going to use. Okay. I really want you to just pick one text unless it's really short, like the public service announcements for teen activism. Those were short, so you could use a couple. And the Dove commercials, you could use a couple. But for most of us, we're probably just going to have one text. Okay. Now you're still going to use other sources on your works cited page. You're going to probably have 4 or 5 sources, but you're going to mainly be focusing on one text. Okay. So the selected text you pick, if it's a documentary, put the title of the documentary. Whatever you select, you're going to put right here. Then that prescribed question, you can copy and paste one of mine, use the exact same question, or you could change it a little bit, totally up to you. Essay topic, these are those 7 topics: representation, culture, identity. You would pick one of those 7 topics. And then literary devices, you need to also be able to talk about how they create meaning, right? That's super important in your analysis. So I want you to start thinking about 3 literary devices that are already in the text you picked. Here's the Writer's Toolbox packet. That was that document I gave you at the beginning of the year that I said is like the Bible of this class. So I want you to use this document to help you find 3 literary devices in your selected text. If you already know them because you wrote about the documentary film essay and you want to use those same devices, go for it. Otherwise, you need to make sure you have 3. I did an example on with The Lion King. I was hoping most of us saw that movie. So that's how I want to see that you know your literary devices. And then any questions you have for me, something I could maybe put online that would be helpful for you, something that you're still wondering about, okay? Now, this is due next week, different due dates for different hours. It's always going to be the same deadlines for that hour. So what I mean by that is 4th and 5th hour, as always, your work is due Wednesday by midnight. 6th hour, as always, your work is due Thursday by midnight, basically before class next week, right? If you want to talk more about this, let's schedule a Google Meet and you and I can brainstorm. Another great resource is up here. Miss Mennett is doing a ton of feedback for students for brainstorming, to have a meeting, to give you some feedback on something you wrote. And you would click here to fill out a request form, and then she'll be in contact with you and you can either meet on Google Meet or she'll just edit it for you. So please take advantage during the writing time process to make an appointment with Miss Mennett, okay? Another thing I will say is this week, all you have due is the template. However, for next week, I'm assigning you to write the rough draft, 1,200 to 15 words. So looking ahead, if you want to start writing it now, go for it. As I find more resources, because this is the first year of this paper, I'm going to put them on the website. Anything I can find as a resource, I'm just going to start throwing up on the website, okay? So please let me know if you have any questions. If there's anything I can help with, shoot me an email, or we can schedule a Google Meet if you'd like. And that's it. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.